Welcome to Devalued with Mike and Caroline, the place where we talk about art and money and how creative people are navigating the ever-changing landscape of trying to make a living for their work.
Today, we're talking with Gil Costello of The Basement and Taylor Cole, booker of the East Room and other venues around town, and lead singer of the band Tails.
Cool.
Here we are.
Hey,
Hello.
thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Welcome to Devalued.
Second episode.
Woo.
Very exciting. So
Yeah.
why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
You first.
Okay, my name's Gil. I work at The Basement. I'm the booker / talent buyer there. I moved to Murfreesboro in 2009 to play in bands and go to school and kind of try to figure it out. Played in a bunch of different bands. And then I migrated over to the venue world in maybe 2016. Started working at Ascend Amphitheater, just doing side operations, which is forklifts and, scrubbing toilets and setting up chairs and bike rack, really glamorous, fun, rock star stuff. And then moved over to the Basement East in 2016 or 2017, somewhere around there. It was just a door guy at first, I had really good advice from a friend of mine who was if you want a set schedule over here, you should just try to pick up as much as you possibly can, as many shifts, because everyone needs a night off at some point. So if you do that, you'll be here all the time, and then eventually you'll just become a regular face over here. So kind of took that to heart, and that's why you saw so much of me probably running door for years and years. Just really, really dove into it, and then started working at the Basement as a door guy, and there was just a vacancy for. No one was really focused directly on that venue. People were kind of focused more on the Basement East, and that venue really benefits, I think, from having someone just focused just on that. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah,
Love
that's
everyone
awesome.
over there. Shout out to Grimy and the team because they're the shit.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
Oh, sheesh.
definitely.
Sheesh. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I try.
Let's see. I am Taylor Cole. I sing for a band called Tails, and I play drums for one called Creature Comfort. I am the talent buyer for the East Room, and I'm going on, I think, 6 years of doing that this year. I side hustle talent buy over at Mercy Lounge and the High Watt as well, and I don't know, fan of local music here.
Your bands also are very reputable and dope.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, all of them. And we were talking about Galaxy earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's how we met is I just saw you at the Darkness and I was like, yo, that's that dude from Galaxy.
Yeah.
I gotta say hi.
Well, your band, Oh Grandpa, back in the day, really grabbed our attention, and we really liked you guys a lot. And
Very
You were-
symbiotic, yeah.
yeah, we got along really well at every show we played together. So
And we still do, and we still
Yeah.
get along really well.
Absolutely,
Despite working in venues that are about the same size, doing similar types of music. Taylor's and I's relationship is
mhm.
super close.
Yeah, we
That's
talk all the
Nashville,
time.
baby.
Mhm.
We
That's
text all the
the
time
great
about
thing.
bands and stuff.
Aw.
Commiserate. and
Mhm, yeah.
complain about shit.
Well, I didn't even know that, so I'm glad
Yeah.
that we got you in the same room.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
assumed
nice.
that you had a lot of similarities because you are, musicians and talent buyers
Mhm.
and just music lovers in general and supporters of bands in the scene. And our whole purpose for this podcast is to kind of talk about the relationship between art, music, and money, which
Nice.
are strange,
Mhm.
everyone has their opinion
Strange
on those things.
bedfellows.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of curious. We'll just open it up like that. What do
Okay.
you have an opinion on those two concepts, those two words?
Do you think those things go together?
Art, music, and money.
Yeah. Or just art and money?
Art and money. Definitely. I mean, money revolves around everything, right? I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
have money to get to do things, but there are cool things that you can do with art that you can't do with anything else. Like, for instance, I was driving by Turnip Green, that's right around the corner. They're a pay what you want art store. Essentially, they got everything from paint to weird little knickknacks, and I've picked up. If you see a Tail show, and sometimes you're like, where the hell did he get that guitar that's a pinata. Well, I got that at Turnip Green for like $0.25. You know, like Samantha and I, you know, go to my partner Samantha and also a team member. She works on a lot of my bands. Go to Turnip Green for, you know, a lot of supplies and things that you can get for, you know, whatever you can give that day. So it kind of, and you know, something really cool about the music scene, especially here, is the camaraderie that can exist between people and little bubbles of people that share. They work on each other's albums for free, and they, you know, support each other. So I mean, the beautiful part about that comes in little ways, you know. But yeah, I mean, you need money to do stuff, and hopefully you make money from your shows, and you can make money from your shows. You just have to set it up that way.
Exactly. I would say that that's like the main thing that I think we can probably speak on as far as like money and art is combined, is like, I think bands generally make the most of their revenue in town from their local shows and stuff. And I've had some conversations recently with a friend of mine who plays in a band called Bloodroot. Shout out Taylor. They're great. She was kind of talking to me about how unequitable shows have become and how difficult it is for bands to either break even or make like a significant amount of money, and kind of like how it's our responsibility as like new faces in this world to kind of try to steer the ship in a different direction. And the main responsibility I think that I've taken on myself is like increasing ticket price. Just like, you know, the standard a few years ago was $5. You know, you pay $5 to go see your friend's band any day of the week.
The standard since the 70s has been $5.
It's kind of like the minimum wage in that respect, you know, and it needed an adjustment. So now all my shows basically start at 10. You know, if a band wants to do something advantageous by having a lower cover, I'm not against it, you know, but $5 shows just like, you can have 20 people in the room, 30 people in the room, 40 people in the room and make like barely any money. But if you have it at 10, 15, $1 or $2 on every single ticket when you're selling like between 50 to 150 tickets is enough to, you know, buy gas for the entire van that day, or get everyone food, or, you know, maybe re-up on merch. So I'm definitely grateful for that. And I try to take that seriously too, you know, the fact that the bands need to make money.
But as bookers of venues, I mean, you often have to like straddle this line between making the venue profitable and also giving stage time to new bands and bands that are inexperienced and unsigned and unknown.
Yeah.
How do you straddle that line?
I like this question because we talk about this at the East Room all the time. You know, my job is to make sure that there's a show every single day, you know, and within that, there are some shows that I can really bank on doing well. I know that I don't really have to check up on it much. And then there's some shows that are new, and then bands that I'm paying attention to, and scenes I think that I want to, or that I hope grow, you know. So as a venue, we know that not every show is going to sell out. Hell, it shouldn't, because that would just stress out the staff, and they wouldn't want to come to work every day. I mean, hell, even Mercy Lounge, they should not sell out every single night, because you're going to stress out everybody that works there. So everybody knows that just happens sometimes, but that's okay, because so you got to start from somewhere, you know. So as far as from the venue goes, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you just roll the dice.
Yeah.
But is it that some shows are supplementing the income for the shows that don't do as well?
That's hard, because there are shows I think are going to do amazing, and then they don't. As far as, let's just go ahead and say that there are different ways to determine what amazing means, right? From the venue side, if you're looking at sales, that's one thing. If you're at the venue side, you're looking at, well, a bunch of 18-year-olds came. They didn't drink much, but a bunch of people came. And hopefully, maybe this is their first time at the venue, and they now love it. And when they're 21, they're going to come and, you know, drink at my venue.
There's the different ways of measuring the success of it.
Specifically, I like to think about Northeast to Freeze, he's just like my favorite dude. I love him so much. I love watching his career go from like somebody that I initially was like, said no to booking. You know, it's like, no, not yet. You know, he was like, I want to book Freeze Fest. I want to do like 20 bands, 2 days, blah, blah, blah. No. And he did it at Fat Bites and proved me wrong.
I could see that being like an intense request to receive from Freeze.
Definitely.
But he totally does nail that type of shit.
Yeah. And he there were a lot of talks at the Easter Room when I started booking them. I was like, look, I know that their crowd is a little younger, but just brace for that. There's other shows this week where you can get a little bit more money. Just this one, we're banking on for a couple years from now being those bigger types of upper echelon local shows. And
then you start asking yourself, are bands just alcohol salespeople?
that is a hard topic, where you want to sell food, local merch for the venue and stuff, but honestly, yeah, that's how a lot of venues make their money, is just alcohol sales.
That's definitely the case with us.
Yeah, us too.
I try honestly not to let it guide too much of my decision making, because like I think it does kind of even out in the end if you're doing like a good job. You can
Definitely.
take risks on bands that may not have a drinking crowd just based on the fact that they're reputable and good, and that can work on a certain night of the week. And then you can always follow it up the next day with like Bro Country
Yeah.
Fest, where people are going to get wasted. But that's like part of the value of like art, is like connection. And that doesn't have anything to do with, well, it does have something to do with alcohol, because if you're a little loose, you're going to connect a little bit closer. But I mean, other than like money, like the value that we put on art is like more experiential. Like one thing that I think we do to foster the newer and baby acts is we have New Faces Night, right? Which has been Grimey's thing for 15 years.
It's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Tons of people have played it. And like just last night, not last night, was it Tuesday last night? No, 2 nights ago. We had an artist who played New Faces Night named Caitlin James. And she's like pretty stripped down, acoustic, very vulnerable, honest. And it just completely like cut through this rough exterior that you see. Like I was just like very emotionally impacted by her music.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she had a song called Playing Dead that was about like generational trauma and like overcoming that. And I just was like floored. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And you can't put a dollar sign attached to that.
Mhm.
You can't buy that. You can't. It just happens. And that's like a huge motivator for me, I think, is moments like that. Like money is obviously extremely important, but I'm grateful that I work for people that care about things like that too, and aren't so focused on one particular aspect, although that particular aspect being alcohol, it is like the primary source of revenue for us.
I think I can speak for both of us. Like when we look at our calendars, week to week, I'm not looking at, oh, my paycheck's going to be this. I look at like, is this going to be a good show? Are people going to come?
Yeah.
Is this band going to come back to the East Room or the Mercy Lounge, or how are they going to be nice to my bartenders? Is this going to be a good time for everybody involved? Not, or am I going to sell a shit ton of booze? Because that's, you just hope you do well as far as your paycheck, whatever that is. But mostly, we just do it because we love it.
Yeah.
I love looking at a full calendar of really good shows.
But that's something that this whole podcast is about, this idea of like doing it because you love it versus actually making a living.
Yeah.
And that's another line that we have to straddle as creative people. And it's something that bands often don't really know when they're dealing with a booker or they're dealing with a venue, that if it goes badly, it's on you, not on the band necessarily, because the band will just float on into the ether,
Well, that's an important thing to talk about too, because like, let's say this may be off subject, but let's say this comes up sometimes at the East Room where people want to bring in their own sound guy or do something creative in the room or whatever. If that fails, as an average showgoer, knowing nothing about how the show went down, you blame the venue, not the band.
That's true.
So our job too is to be kind of the in between on that and say like, okay, is this band good enough to, can I trust them to run it well? And usually the answer is yes. But that is definitely a thing sometimes. But I think it's also important to discuss between venue and band whose show it is, because it's the band's show.
Yeah.
It's not our show.
Right.
We may be hosting you for the night and providing what you need to do that event, but it is ultimately the band. You and your bandmates and everybody else who's playing are responsible for, promoting it.
And that's something that you mentioned at the beginning, like a show could be profitable if you set it up that way.
Correct.
So how do you set it up that way to be profitable?
Do you want to start on that one, or you want me to?
I think the first thing is like we talked about a second ago, just adjusting ticket prices so that, at the end of the day when you're making that settlement check, it's a lot fatter. I
Mhm.
think that's the easiest thing that you can do is start to experiment and get a little bit more confident with like $10, $15 as a cover. Because my friend, when we were talking about it, she was just like, sorry you didn't get to go to Chipotle that one day during your week
Right.
to buy a ticket to my show. But I've been working on this project for how long? And I think that's like one of the first things you can do. And other than that, like the most important thing to making a show profitable is just making sure people are there, right? And like promoting your show, making
Mhm.
sure that you're out doing the rounds and letting people know that you're playing. Because there's traditional promo, which is like posting about it on social media. And then
Yeah.
there's like the street promo where you're just like walking around, going and making connections with the people and getting them interested in what you're doing.
Definitely. If you care about it, other people are going to care about it, and that even trickles down to your own bandmates. And that's probably the hardest thing to do is as a band leader or a solo person, or whatever. Even harder then is getting a group of people to promote the show that you're really caring the most about, and then you get the other bands to care about it, and suddenly you have like 16 people that are pushing the show all over the place. And it does work out. I believe anyone can bring out 50 people any night, for sure, if you just got to want to. But I mean, it is a little harder nowadays. You see a lot.
I think you have to have enough time to,
Sometimes, yeah, depending on
Yeah.
who you are, for
Yeah.
sure.
like, part of our job, I feel like, is like coming up with a show on the fly because of maybe like a cancellation or
Mhm.
like something falling through the cracks. And who can I hit up in 2 weeks to fill this date, And uh, that's not always advantageous, to the bands. Sometimes they can pull it together, but the best thing that a band can do is be planning like months in advance and being strategic about when they're playing.
Yeah, something we talk about all the time is when bands play a little too often, too. If
Mhm.
you are playing this Friday and then next Thursday and then 2 weeks from now again, it's like, who do you think is coming to see you this often?
Yeah.
Like, you are not the raconteurs, man. Look, this is you got to know it for what it is. So,
Yeah.
and to the touring band that you're most likely playing with that asked you to play all these shows, the venue that likes you and likes your band, they're all depending upon you and to bring people out.
That's true.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at the touring band, you're like, sorry, there's no money to be made. That's on y'all.
Mhm.
Like, because not every touring band has a local draw
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So,
That's a difficult thing, too, that I think I'd like to know your thoughts on. It's one thing to try to cultivate your hometown crowd, and that's hard enough to be strategic in that way. But to try to tour, it's become more and more important as streaming has kind of come into the main point of music at this
Mhm.
point. You can't talk about music without talking about streaming. And I think back in the day, the 60s and 70s, the your album your touring was in support of your album release.
Mhm.
So it was more about selling the album, and the touring was just in support of that.
Mhm.
Now that the music industry has changed so drastically, it's almost reversed, where you're putting out an album just to have something on the internet so people can listen to you, so maybe they'll come to your show when you come to their town.
Yeah, it's like a report card.
Yeah, it's very strange, but who's giving you a grade? You
Yeah.
know? So it's how do you think bands can better do the touring thing, because it is so important? How do they better appeal to people like you who are making the gatekeeping decisions?
And you could answer that from both sides because you
Okay,
just
Right,
I'd love
right.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
First off, from the band side, like in Tails, we just put out a record, and we are out touring and planning more dates and stuff like that. Like this morning, I had a phone call with my booking agent, and we planned like, okay, so here are some target markets that we enjoyed playing. We're gonna go back to them, but like Atlanta, we played for our first time not too long ago, and about 200 people came out, and that was a lot of work. And that was a team of people. That was me, Samantha, Chris, Samantha's intern, doing a whole lot of deciding on what locals we're getting, making sure they have a good deal, that they care about promoting the show. We even got an out of town band that happens to just do well in Atlanta, who was really excited to promote there. And then on top of that, we did a lot of work on marketing, a lot of work on TikTok and Instagram spins. And I know we were talking about money. I know it's hard. Not everybody has a lot of money to put into ad spends. I certainly don't. But, even if I allowed myself to spend like $50 on an Instagram ad that says, you literally have to say, hey, Atlanta, like if you're whatever city you're targeting, because the Instagram, algorithm or whatever will pick that up and show it to people in Atlanta. It totally works.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with TikTok. So you'll see me with, hey, Atlanta, we're doing a giveaway. Da, 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 da. Hey, Charlotte, we're doing this. And that showed up. People were, coming out just to see our band. And, we had people. A good place to start are people in your band from different areas. Like Michael is from Atlanta. So he had like at least 10 friends that came, So it's just good places to start. As far as me at the East Room and booking, first and foremost, I'm looking for a good email.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
God.
And also an email directly to me, not like a MailChimp. Do you read MailChimp?
Yeah. I don't read I don't read.
If you send me an email that you also sent to every single other venue in the country or in the region, I guarantee you I didn't read it.
I also don't read Indie on the Move or Indie on the Go or whatever.
I don't think I get any of those.
I get them all the time. I don't use them.
I'll read an email that someone spent like 5-10 minutes out of their day sending directly to the basement or directly to me. I'll at least listen to what you have to say. I might not necessarily respond to it, but
it doesn't have to be crazy either.
Yeah. Concise is good. A nice like email that doesn't take too long for me to read.
I don't need your biography.
No, just links to
I will find it.
Links to your music, links to your social media, and like a range of dates that are specific.
I like to say the more info, the better. Where's your head at? Like, are you thinking, even if you hadn't hit them up, what bands are you thinking about joining your show?
Right.
How many did you already play Nashville before? How many people came? If not, that's all right. Let me know where you're at. Do you have some friends in Nashville? Are you thinking about, I know so-and-so and so-and-so band and they're really cool. I think we're friends. Maybe they'll play. Awesome. I'll give you a hold so you can check that out and see if it works. But if there's no conversation and it's just some shitty email taking up my time, then it's going to be a shitty email taking up my time right in my trash can. So.
Yeah.
It's tough to get attention in a sea of emails that I'm sure you get inundated with every day.
We read them all.
Yeah.
Except if they're MailChimp, then you don't.
I'll look I look at them, but the Indie on the Go stuff, it's the same thing. They're emailing a bunch of venues at one time and hoping for the best, which is okay, but that's just not what I do.
Yeah.
I want to know that you care.
Yeah,
like when I'm looking at your Instagram, I want to see, even if your last show wasn't in Nashville, did you promote? Did you post about it? Did your band members all, sometimes I'll look at your other band members, and friends, like, what's it like? Are you promoting and marketing? And do you care about your own music? Or are you going to hope to play like 2 hours? You got a bunch of covers and, we'll play for beer. What are we creating?
Is that how you measure if a band cares about their own music? Is it how much they promote it?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Think about it. Why do the thing if you're not going to promote your record or your,
It really shows when people don't care about a show. And if you care about your music, you're probably going to care more about your shows. It's not always the case. And, sometimes I think people get caught up in making mistakes that are avoidable. Like the overplaying thing that we were talking about, or maybe just not like properly like promoting the show and like bringing awareness to the fact that it even exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate at the basement in particular that I have like years of records that I can look through. Like that was like one of the biggest gifts to me, is just like being able to look at, oh, this person did 56 tickets in 2016 and then in 2017 they did like 75. Like, they've been building a little bit. That's like an interesting thing too, on the point of like commodification and like money and art having like a marriage and a value. Like actually in the concert industry, there's like a number attached to it. You know what I mean? There's like an attendance, and that depends on a number of different things. It isn't a reflection on the quality of the art at hand, but it is a reflection of like the engagement from people. You know what I mean? And people's willingness to throw their money at the artist.
Yeah. Yep. It's important to note, I think, that not always am I booking just on my musical taste. It honestly does not matter what I think is good or not. because
That's true.
if
Yeah.
people are going to come, who cares what I say? Like if it's
But I think that's fantastic because why would you be the arbiter of if
Yeah.
you hate doom metal and people love doom metal, so why do you get to decide
yeah,
what's good or bad?
Yeah.
You're just trying to put on a show.
if it's a good time, I want it.
Right.
Period.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause-
That's cool.
At the end of the day, we just want people to have a good time at our venue and go out forth into the world saying, "I love the Basement OG and I love the Easter and Mercy Line." That's all you want, really, and hopefully you make money.
On the other side of that coin, though, as you're both musicians, do you feel like if you weren't getting the public response that you felt you deserved from your amount of effort, would you stop?
I did that. I did
You
that.
stopped.
Yeah, I stopped. Like,
Why did you stop?
I wasn't getting the amount of response that I wanted. Like, I got so fed up with just like the lack of engagement at shows that I was like, I quit.
Mm.
And that is like not a great place to be. I'm grateful
that
for
hurt.
it in an extended way because it brought me into venues. I didn't want to completely pull myself out. I started working at an amphitheater, and then that led to like a career path. But that also led me to this idea that I can separate my art from my income. You know what I mean? And just do art and enjoy it again. So a few years ago, you just feel like there's this like weird gaping hole. I mean, like that needs to be filled with something. And the only thing that can fill that is getting on stage and singing your music in front of people. Like nothing else can really scratch that itch. You can book a million shows at your venue, but at the same time, like I'm very cathartic in the way that I play. Like I'm not so much about being the center of attention as it is like getting something off of my chest and out into the universe. So yeah, like that can be like an intense process and you can get fed up with it, but time away from it is time wasted too.
But where do you get that fulfillment now? As
I
as
still
the-
play. So I separated like I took a lot of pressure off myself because in those a few years in between me starting at the amphitheater and me beginning to play music again, like I said, there's just like kind of like an emptiness, and I was like, I got an offer to play Burro Fondo in Murfreesboro.
This year?
Yeah, no, like 3 or 4 years ago,
Okay.
which is like a festival that has happened in Murfreesboro for like over a decade. It used to be Tour de Fun.
Yeah.
Was put
That's a
up.
whole nother.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
established by
yes.
Met Dad and
Yes,
Tyler
yes.
Walker. Who's like an OG.
Sassy.
Love him.
Yeah. I got an offer to play that show, and I went and I played. I was actually playing with Melanie Faye too. Melanie Faye was like
mhm.
right in this writers round with me, and I was like, oh man, like it doesn't have to be so complicated. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be about like an end game goal. I can literally just go after this because I enjoy it now. Separating those two things, and that's what a lot of musicians that are in bands that you like do.
Do you think that that's where we're at, though, is that each musician has to decide, because of the way the system is set up currently, that they have to decide whether they're going to play the game or not?
There are many different ways to be
Yeah.
a musician right now, specifically. I have friends who are doing really well on Twitch. I mean, making tons of money on Twitch, just, straight looping and doing all kinds of stuff. And I mean,
What do they do, if you don't mind me asking? That's
Well-
not a platform that I'm like super familiar with. I've seen a few things on there.
she does a lot of
recording,
like video game music or like playing like covers and looping. I mean, and there's a ton of that. There's a ton of people just playing video games, a ton of people just talking. Chris, I forget, I don't know, I know his last name well enough to say it, but his name's Chris, and he has this Twitch channel where he reviews people's music. He lives here in Nashville, and I think he used to manage R. Lamar. He reviews people's music and demos and stuff, and he gets pretty good viewers on that too. Like, so there's many different outlets and ways to reach
Yeah.
people, and different ways to do what works for you. But if you're talking like general indie rock band, people with guitars and singing and doing that thing, then that's its own thing.
I've seen people get really creative, like with their talents too. Like maybe a musician who is also a talented painter creates like a one of a kind piece project, or
Liz Cooper
as
did
like
that.
a small limited run
Mhm.
of like I think of Nicole Atkins too specifically. She
Yeah.
had like an animal series that she did where she was like every day she would like draw like a raccoon or like a fox or a different
Cute.
animal, and then people would purchase her art from her, and that's like I think I learned this in school that people tell you to exploit your talents and it's seen as like a negative thing. But if you really think about what you're doing, you're just like taking the things that you're naturally good at and then trying to generate revenue with them.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline, you're great at this.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
great at this. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like I
thanks.
literally just hired you a few days ago to do this exact same thing. So you know what I mean? Like you just find
Same.
Thank
little-
you both.
the goat.
I am so poor. I am just desperately poor.
You should charge more for your art.
But I.
It definitely is worth it. I mean,
Well, and I appreciate that, but what would we? I mean, whose pocket would it come out of? The
mine.
band.
I'm happy to pay that.
But I don't want that.
Here's the thing:
You'll
you have
get there,
value.
too,
You
if
have
you
so much
continue,
value,
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
You not only have a great
Yeah.
turnaround time, easy and fun to work with. Your art is really good.
Bless.
I mean, like, so there's reasons why people pay
Yeah.
top dollar for stuff like
Yeah,
that.
those are all true things.
That's
Mhm.
really nice. But I mean, as
Yeah,
we
how-
talk,
How fucking rare is that to have someone that
I
is
have
good,
had a lot
quick
of really-
turnaround,
Yeah,
and
I've had
easy to work
so many
with.
bad relationships with artists and stuff outside of the band when it comes to like visual or video art,
Yeah.
stuff. It's like you have been the real great constant for me.
well, I appreciate that, but I am also I have a lot of things set up for me that a lot of people don't. I mean, I
Yeah.
have a lot of free time at the moment because I'm not struggling. Like, I don't have a lot of bills that are just breathing down
Yeah.
my neck all the time. So I'm lucky in that way. So I appreciate you both, really. But I do have to remember, like, not everyone has the same opportunity
Right,
to
definitely.
be timely as I do.
Mhm.
But I do try to be on time pretty hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things, you do it because you love it. And then after a while you're like, well, I do have to charge
Yeah.
something.
That's
Your
but that's
time
a
is
weird
valuable,
thing,
yeah.
though. It's a weird thing because it seems like culturally everyone's saying like do what you love, but that's such a weird way to operate because the majority of people don't get to do what they love.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm in marketing, I'm in a creative field, but I don't love marketing.
Mhm.
No one loves marketing. Marketing is like a tool for people to like consume stuff.
Yeah.
But like I love, music. I love creating music. But I'm lucky in the sense that like the money that I make isn't derived from music, so it's still pure. I don't get to lose. I get to keep the value of it intact. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to Gil about this specifically because I have watched very closely your connection with socioeconomic issues,
Mhm.
especially over quarantine. You've been very vocal about that and been highly involved, which thank you for doing all of that. And I appreciate you so much
appreciate that, Caroline.
and rooting for all the causes that you are. Like, I feel like
geez.
we're brother and sister in that.
Right.
And-
yeah. Thank you so much for saying that.
But I feel like that feeds into this in a way where if we are able to raise the bottom floor for everybody,
Mhm.
that it would give us all enough breathing room
Yep.
to be able to pursue the things that we actually love, whether that is something like music or just spending time with your family more
Mhm.
or just things that aren't work.
Right. You're talking about restructuring the entire.
Yes, I am.
Economy.
Yes, I am. I am. And
That's a beautiful premise. I'm on board.
Well,
I-
wouldn't it be great if the things that you loved were all of a sudden like commodifiable and you can exploit them in a way that is again like good? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
that be the ultimate case scenario? And like, what responsibility do me and Taylor as like talent buyers, promoters have to the musician? The answer is like, it's a two-way street. We owe you the opportunity to maybe start your career at our venue. That's what
I think
gets
that's
me super excited,
Yeah.
is like capturing something on a very early time period.
I like how you phrase that. I think that's a beautiful way to phrase that. It was like you owe the artist the opportunity, but in turn, the artist owes something back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's,
I like
I
that
love
too.
that.
Because what Taylor said is completely true, that it's your show. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the venue is just the space that it's held in.
Right.
And speaking of marketing, as the venue, if I got to market what's happening, and if I'm doing a good job as a talent buyer, there's a show every day,
Mm.
and I am, on the marketing side. Do you pick one over the other? No, you have to market each one every day, give them all the same amount of attention. You can share announcements and stuff like that, but if I'm just marketing the Weird Sisters this Saturday, all the rest of
Mhm.
those bands that are looking at they'll be like, "What the hell, Taylor? You don't like us? What's the deal?" I don't know. Does that make
Do you
sense?
have help?
Yeah, it does,
do you have
for
help
sure.
with like the East Room's social media at all? Do you
It's
have like
literally
another
4
person?
people that run the East Room, man. It's
Mhm.
the 2 owners, the Onage, the bar manager, and then me.
Mhm.
So like we're
Okay.
all 4 general manage, and it's me and Luke that handle all the marketing.
Got you.
So I do most of like the sharing and commenting, and I'm the only guy on Twitter for the East Room.
And do you do 100% of the booking?
Yes, I'm 100%
Nice.
of the booking at the East
Nice.
Room
Wow.
for the past 6 years, and then for like technically you say about a little over a year and a half if you minus the pandemic that we were not open. Been
Yeah.
side hustling over at the High Watt Mercy Lounge, which has been a really cool eye-opening opportunity to see what it's like at the next level.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Beyond
Are you
50 cap rooms and stuff.
Are you finding that since things are opening back up again, that people are hungry for live music, or is it the same old story where it's a struggle to get people to go to shows?
That struggle will never end. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're always going to be that guy bugging your friends to come to see you play. That will never end. But the beautiful thing is that if you do what you love, and maybe they love to come see you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think attendance is a little low everywhere right now. Bar sales are up. So
Oh.
people are a little, either they're
Sad.
sad. I like to think that we were all home drinking,
Yeah.
and our tolerance is up now, so it takes a little bit more to get me turned these days.
I think that like when we first reopened, there was like a huge
big time.
attendance spike
Yeah.
where like every show was selling out and
True.
everything was going crazy, and we were all like looking at each other like, "Damn, this is what we were expecting to happen out of quarantine." It's
very
like,
much, yeah.
woo! But then things didn't necessarily get better. Not as many people got vaccinated. And now I think we're at this point where people are becoming selective about the shows they go to.
Definitely, yeah.
It's not necessarily that they're not going to shows or that they're too afraid to go to shows. It's that the amount that they expose themselves to is pretty reserved to like people they really want to go see. So the smaller bands that are developing and stuff like that they're in for a tough time for the next for the immediate future.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before when we first reopened, it was like a band that I never heard of could completely sell out the basement. And
Yeah,
then I'm
people
like,
were
wow.
just coming to
Yeah.
the East Room and, just to see a show from nowhere.
Mhm.
And that doesn't happen all the time where,
No, that was like a beautiful, amazing,
Was it
wonderful
because
thing.
it felt special? Do you think that trying to capture whatever that was, that like feeling of this is a special moment that I cannot miss, do you think it's possible to like continue
Yeah.
that?
definitely.
That
I mean,
happens-
you're
yeah.
obviously the one to ask, Taylor. You
Oh,
are.
thank you.
Every show I've ever been to of yours is like, okay, what's it gonna be now? What's the
you.
what multiple
Yeah.
takeaways from this show are we gonna have?
I really appreciate having that reputation.
You've earned it.
Yeah, no, I definitely, again, if you care about it, if you're out there saying, I care so much about my art and what I'm doing, and even if you don't like it, that's a part of the fucking ride. I even love that part of the ride, then I think other people are going to care too. I think that it comes back to you. The energy you put out, you get back, in most things. So I think
I will say this about you too, Taylor. Like, it's amazing the amount of focus that you're able to give like those many different things.
Mhm.
oh, thank you.
Like the amount of ability that you have to focus on the quality of your booking, as well as the quality of your music, as well as the quality of your performances, as well as you're just like an amazing human as well. Like all those things, man, are. I've looked up to you for a long time.
That means
so,
the world to me,
I
Gil.
fucking
Thank
love
you.
bud.
I love you.
This is the sweetest room ever.
Isn't that?
Well, man,
the-
I needed that today. I had therapy this morning, and I really needed that today.
Hell yeah for therapy. Can we get just a little hell yeah for therapy right now?
Shout out.
So, we're getting close to our wrap up time.
Oh
but,
wow, I could do this for another 2 hours.
I know, right?
Gosh.
When you look at Nashville and all that it's becoming, obviously, are you optimistic about the future of live music here?
Yes, I will say from my point of view, but I do not like to look back and say what could have been if only we were still doing more of the old Nashville stuff. Man, go towards the future.
Yeah.
Let's go new Nashville. Like, let's invest in new bands and people, young people that are doing cool things, and everything that's new. Let's go. How do we make this work for everybody? And I have to think that way, man, or else why are we doing it? Like, of course, why not? That's just the world I want to live in, at least.
Well, mine takes a little bit more somber.
I love the vagabond.
Yeah. Bands that are starting right now, you're just gonna have to work a little bit harder because it's way more difficult to get people out to your shows right now. You have an added challenge that I respect and I take into account, but like Taylor said, the amount that you put into it is the amount that you're going to get out of it, and the amount of preparation and strategy that you can have behind it is going to reflect on the commodification of it. You know what I mean?
You got to plan your roller coaster.
Yeah, if you want to make a bunch of money playing a show, treat it that way. You know what I mean? And tell all of your friends about it, and don't mess around with a bunch of opportunities that are going to dilute that. And another thing too about just something that Taylor and I hate, like communication with the people around you helps a lot too. Just like understanding that, like, I want your band to get paid. If you have an opportunity to go to Franklin and make like $750 at a cover gig, like, yo, I'm going to be like, go do that.
Yeah, just hit us
what
up.
I mean? Yeah.
You got another gig or something around the one you got playing with? Just, we're people too.
We play music.
Yeah,
we understand,
just
dude.
say,
Like,
hey, man, I want to do this thing. Is it cool?
I get to open up for the fucking Offspring. Like, tight, dude.
Yeah.
Go do that.
There's ways around making both things happen, and we want all the best opportunities for you in the world.
Seriously, even if it's not at my venue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're optimistic about, in general.
I want to say something about, you're talking about younger bands that are just starting.
Yeah.
I would say they dig out at least a little leg up as far as new marketing techniques go.
Very true.
And I know every musician doesn't want to talk about TikTok, and it seems like vomit in my mouth when I say the word. But if only I knew the platform more sooner. Right? Only now do I feel comfortable using it and feel good sharing what I want to on it, and know how to use it actually. But younger bands who could just, all their high school friends and stuff are on TikTok and following, they already have a cool following. Just
it's like
go for
second
it.
nature for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Olivia Rodrigo played her first live show recently, like a couple of weeks ago or months. Like,
I have no
and it
idea who
was
that
completely
is.
sold out. Oh, that's cute.
I'm sorry. I
She
really
does
don't.
that that song about like
Driver's
driving.
license.
Yeah.
Sociopath.
Yeah, that
yes.
Paramore-ish
Yeah,
one.
yeah, sounds
I
I
don't
mean,
know it.
I think she's been sued for both of her hits so
Oh,
far
yeah.
for songwriting credits.
Ooh, see, oh man,
But
Caroline.
regardless of that, that's a whole nother.
that's
We'll
a
take
whole
we'll
nother
take
episode.
another thing. But
come back
the
for that
point
episode.
being, she has achieved worldwide fame and wealth beyond anything we will know before she even played any live shows. So things are
there's
changing
hope.
again. There are things changing again. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's going to be different.
There's usually mechanisms kind of behind that. Though,
Mhm,
You know what I mean?
But
Like,
being able to roll with the wave,
Right.
whatever that is.
Well, thank you both so much for coming
thank
on.
you for having us.
Yeah, this was
fun.
really
Yes.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, I loved how you asked last time how we can support you and your various
Oh.
projects and causes.
You can support me by going to the OG basement and seeing Gil's shows, because that will in turn make me happy
Oh.
to see Gil's shows doing well.
And I'll say the same about Taylor's shows. That really is the spirit of this industry. Is like
Mhm.
keep it. A rising. What is the expression?
Tide?
The rising tide lifts all ships.
Love that. That's what I
Yeah.
live by too.
Mm-hmm. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, this was really fun.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Of course.
Wow. That was awesome.
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God, I loved it.
Aw.
Anytime.
I had other things I was like considering trying to like whip it over to, but I was like, no, we're doing fine. This is
Like
this
what?
is great.
Yeah.
Broadway. I wanted to ask you about
Should
I
we?
wrote
We could
Broadway.
edit
I
it
can-
in.
Yeah, I can get
If
on
you guys
record
want
for that.
to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I got
we
time.
can talk about
Whatever
that.
you want to talk about. I got
What time
time.
is it?
It's 5.
Oh yeah, I don't want
02.
to keep you too.
I have like 30 minutes.
And you got Americana Fest today?
Yeah, I gotta go to baseball.
Oh, you might be seeing me
I gotta
later.
exploit myself and commodify myself.
Actually,
and
that
find
is
a
a
way
part
to
of-
hustle. Yeah.
Samantha's like, you want to go work this out of town festival? And I was like, no, because I got to go to Americana Fest and just be around, schmooze.
Yeah.
It is really a good, way to meet people for what we do.
Definitely.
Agents, and I feel like Americana Fest is just agents and managers that go to shows.
So I wanted to. Taylor, you mentioned the next level of venue, which makes me think about the ecosystem of the Nashville music scene and any music scene. There is some sort of level to various rooms of various sizes and bands of various pulls. And I feel like we can't discuss the Nashville music scene fully without talking a little bit about Broadway.
Broadway.
What are your thoughts and feelings?
Well, I have a personal, like my inside of my own heart, right? I hate it. I hate I hate Broadway. Like I've written it off. It's never going down there again, just because how they handled the pandemic.
Yeah.
And
Which was how?
Yeah.
well, and you might have to fact check me on this, but so when we were all supposed to close down all venues, if you consider yourself a venue here in Nashville, you're supposed to close. What they did is said instead was charge more money for a hot dog or a buffet that you didn't know you were buying. Like it comes with the booze.
That's
So
right, yeah,
then
yeah.
you are suddenly a restaurant
We were
because you're selling
Yeah.
more food than booze. So that's how they got to stay open.
Mm.
And they continued to still, through the mask policy and just everything left and right. And then we, as venues, like I'm gonna call us venues. Okay, Broadway's they're just honky tonks, whatever. Struggled to make the difference between them and us to get government funding to stay open.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to get our money, essentially, that the government said belonged to entertainment venues. And we're over here like, no.
You're not a venue. You're a bar with a stage.
That's where IMVAN
Yeah.
came, and really helped to make there's a now definition between Broadway and us.
Mm.
There's a deciding factor there. So
You have to understand too that Broadway, when was the last time that you saw someone do an original set that wasn't at Acme?
yeah,
That might be one of the only places where you'll hear someone playing material that they wrote. And I think that, in the days of yore before the pandemic, there was a purpose for Broadway, as an independent musician. It was a way for you to exploit your talents and get paid. You may not, it might be somewhat soul crushing based on your musical taste, but it was it was still necessarily an opportunity for a bass player to go to, Roberts and make a bunch of money in tips and stuff like that.
or meet other musicians.
So in the days of yore, it was can't really knock it, even if it's not necessarily my vibe. But yeah, the way that they handled the pandemic made it almost impossible for us to do the things that we did.
Yeah.
The whole reason that we started doing outdoor shows in the first place was born out of necessity of what is a way that we can do this that is safe.
Mhm.
Because I think in 2020, I think I did trivialize the importance of music. You know what I mean? Because I was experiencing so many things that mattered to me deeply. You know what I mean? And I was very invested in causes that were beyond the realm of just your personal enjoyment, more based around the sanity of life. And when we re-emerged out of the ashes at the basement, it was in pods of 4, and you had to have your mask on, and you could only buy a ticket of 4 because that way you were predisposed to bring people in your COVID bubble. And a lot of thought went into it. You know what I mean? A lot of conversations between the owners and the GM Tara. And that just seemed like the only way to do it responsibly and I am really grateful that I was part of showing the world that was like a thing that could be done. You know what I mean? Because then you started seeing venues in like other markets reduce their capacity and like, sell groups of tickets together. Like, I think it was important to show that like, even if Broadway is going to do their own thing, like let them, that's not us.
Yeah.
It's really separate, even when you think about like the genre of music and the type of music that's being played, because I don't book cover bands.
But I think that what 2020 revealed was not only that the pandemic threatened music venues because you weren't allowed to open, but also like the development creep that's coming threatened the exit in. GoFundMe had to save the exit in. And
of all places, somewhere that should never even be.
I know, but it's like these music venues that we kind of take for granted that is always going to be there. They're always going to be able to support local artists. That might not always be the case.
Yeah. You got to remember, somebody owns the property on most cases, and then somebody owns the business. So at any time, a lot of your favorite places to go to do anything could become something else.
That's so true. So
it happens
100%
all the time.
true. Yeah.
So it's more important now than ever to be purposeful about supporting the things that you care about, and even more than that, to pressure the people that are making the bigger decisions about where our city funding goes and things like that, to value those things also. Because it's one thing to ask every person, please give us $10 for an evening, and it's another thing to try to take it a step further and make impacts in bigger ways. Of course, I'm all like fight the system type of thing, but I do feel like that's an important part of this conversation, is to like expand the view beyond just crowdsourcing, which you're so great at. That's what we do. But there are bigger things that we can look to for change also.
You made me think about something that I know that you and I are thinking about a lot lately, in that requiring proof of vax and or negative test to get in, kind of a huge responsibility on my shoulders that I've never felt before. Feeling like I don't really, if anyone's ever called me like a leader in the scene or something like that, I don't really. I'm like, whatever, it's you, it's everybody's doing the thing. But in this way, I've felt a little bit of that, and it's weird.
I would agree.
It's weird.
I would agree. I mean, the example that I saw that I recommended to like Dave and Grimy when, this idea was starting to go around was based off of Tipitina's in New Orleans. They were the first place that I saw. I mean, I heard that they were checking vaccine cards in New York and LA for certain shows and stuff like that. But Tipitina's was like, prove a vaccine or a negative COVID test within 48 hours. And that's it. And I was like, that's a really, really bold move. And I think that every venue should do that. And I was kind of not surprised, but like impressed and happy to see every venue in Nashville basically step up.
What was really cool about that day? So, MVAN exists out of the pandemic, which is Music Venue Alliance Nashville. And that's a lot of venues. I don't quite remember right on top of my head exactly every single one, but that we talk every other week, and during the pandemic, every single week, about how do we keep each other open, how do we support each other, make sure nobody closes during this time, and just be really good for each other. And I remember when we were deciding, like, this, we're going to do this, and I was on the phone with Grimy and everybody, just
Dave and Tara,
calling each other, just like, when are we going to do it? Like, we've been waiting for somebody to do it. And then when 5 Spot pulled the trigger, I called everybody at the East Room and said, we're doing it too. I was like, we're not about to be down the street from somebody and be, not reflecting their values of somebody that we love as well. We love the 5 Spot. We reflect their values and mission as well. So it was all just domino effect. We were all just like, let's do it. Let's go. And it was a real beautiful thing to see everybody just back each other up. And even the weekend after that, it was like everybody survived the mean comments on Facebook.
And that's the power of collective movement.
Oh my gosh.
It's just a reminder that the things that you do do have an impact. I mean, that venue in New
Yeah.
Orleans probably has no idea that they were so inspirational to so many people.
Definitely.
And that
Shout out to Tipatina.
Yeah, thank you. And that in effect, changed the whole way that we're going about it here, and probably many other scenes are going about it together.
Yeah.
And I hope we can continue to do that with the rest of the music industry and
Yeah.
shaping it in the way that is positive and good.
To add is, we are consistently looking at the scene to show us what you want. Like literally those decisions came out of the people in our music scene saying that's what they were comfortable with, and that we should
I
do.
did poll like a bunch of my friends and stuff like
Mhm.
throughout the pandemic and just asked them questions about like, does this make you feel comfortable? Is it too soon? Like, what would you want to see? How would it make you feel if, it was outdoors? How would you make you
Yep.
feel if you had to wear a mask? And yeah,
we just following what everybody wants, really trying to make that decision.
it's
that
really great
you
too
make.
when you're like working the door and you're checking a vaccine card and someone tells you that they got vaccinated so they could keep going to a show.
Yeah.
Like
Nice.
that, I was not anticipating that as much, but that's been happening a lot over at the basement where someone's like,
Some
yeah,
real
man,
cool-
got the jab. Like I had to fucking come to the show.
it gives value to live music, at
Yeah.
least for that person.
Yeah, and it's not monetary either. It's like a
Yeah.
different type of value that you're like associating with the concert experience at least.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're done.
Okay.
Okay, now we're done. Thank you.
That was awesome. That's perfect.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for listening to Devalued. For more information about our podcast, please visit devalued.show.